Hey guys, as you may know, we've recently got back from a trip to South America. We were there for 6 months, and I thought, there's some things that are a little bit different about South America that maybe would be helpful for people to know ahead of time before traveling. Well, South America is amazing. The biodiversity of animals that you can find there is absolutely astonishing. If you haven't been to South America, 100% would recommend it. Make sure you bring a camera. The other thing is, it's very common in South America for toilets to not flush toilet paper. So if you do go to South America and you think, why am I seeing all these signs saying something about toilet paper and there's always a garbage can right next to it? Very common. Never flush your toilet paper because their sewer system just can't accept it and you may end up having a clog. So always put the toilet paper in the garbage can next to the toilet. May seem a little bit strange at first, but really not that bad and it's pretty easy to get used to. Another thing, maybe buses aren't as common where you're from. Busing in South America, very efficient. Maybe doesn't always go on time. There can be some issues with it, but you can pretty much get all the way around South America just on a bus. So definitely, if you're wanting to travel a little bit cheaper, a little bit more on a budget, look into traveling by bus. If you're wondering what kind of food is really common, rice, beans, and some kind of meat and plantain is very, very common all throughout South America that we've found so far. And not a lot of seasonings, really just oil and salt is pretty common. But that being said, very tasty. Sometimes it's accompanied with like a chicken soup, sometimes a little bit of salad with some tomatoes on it. Very tasty. Another thing that's very common as far as food goes in South America is deep fried yumminess. Depending on what region you are, they have different kind of deep fried specialties. Potatoes, like French fries, seems to be pretty common throughout South America. If you're in Colombia, you may find something called an arepa, which is kind of like a pancake sort of with cheese in it. Very tasty. If you go to Colombia, definitely try the arepa. Or if you go to Brazil, they have a thing called a coxinha, which is shredded chicken in kind of a deep fried dumpling sort of thing with some potatoes in it. Also very tasty. So definitely check out the local foods depending on where you're going because, you can't get it back home, so why not try it while you're there? Also, depending on where you're going, they might not accept Visa or debit card. That might seem kind of strange because definitely in Canada, I almost exclusively use my Visa card, but some places just don't take it. So make sure you have some of the local currency wherever you're going just in case they don't take card. Another thing to consider, don't just have currency of, large bills. Try to get lower quantities if you can, especially if you're in smaller cities or little towns. They might not want to take your big bills because they might not actually have change to give you back. So if you have, something in an increment of like 5 or 10, depending on what the currency is, that's definitely better. Or just try to give them something as close to the amount that you're paying as possible. So, if you're buying something that's about $1, don't give them a $20 bill because that might be really hard for them to find change for that. And if you do give them a $20 bill, don't be surprised if they have to leave the store to get you change and then come back maybe 5-10 minutes later. We ran into that a lot of times. Even though we tried to carry smaller bills, if you're taking out money from the bank kind of just gives you whatever the bank wants to, and sometimes that's not the best currency or the best bill size that you want. A lot of touristy places in South America do speak English. Though keep in mind, if you go outside of the touristy areas, you might run into a little bit more of an issue if you don't speak Spanish or Portuguese. That's not saying people are going to be rude to you, they just might not speak English, so you might have a little bit harder time communicating. So if you are going into the areas, I would definitely recommend at least trying to pick up a little bit of Spanish or a little bit of Portuguese. One, that's respectful, that's saying, I'm coming into your country and I'm putting the effort into trying to learn your language. Also, it just kind of breaks that barrier and makes it a little bit easier to communicate between two people. You may have heard pickpocketing is super common and you need to be afraid, don't go to different places. Okay, pickpocketing can be common anywhere in the world. But the thing to keep in mind is just be smart. If you're going to a really busy city, don't be waving around your camera or your phone, or don't, wear a lot of really expensive jewelry. Kind of just be smart and then you shouldn't have any issues. One thing I ran into, and I'm not proud of it, is I let my guard down. One time when we were in Ecuador on a bus, we had had such good luck all throughout our trip so far. I was like, I don't need to worry about anything. And I made the mistake of trying to close my eyes and take a nap on the bus. And very shortly after departing, the police arrived, and I'm thinking, what's going on? This guy came up to me and he said, check your bags, someone was robbing you. I called the police. And so the police came and they searched everybody and they couldn't find, and I found out that my camera and my phone were missing. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, that was so stupid of me. Why did I try sleeping? You know, I should have been watching my bags, should not have let my guard down. Luckily, the police ended up finding my phone and my camera, but you know, you can't always depend on a good Samaritan seeing that and calling the police. So I'm very lucky that I got my stuff back, and I'm so grateful that the guy called the police and that the police came and helped me find my stuff. But it definitely was kind of an eye-opener for me. I let my guard down, I shouldn't have, so make sure that you watch your belongings, you don't leave them out in the opening, and I mean, don't take a nap on a bus, because that's not a good idea. Whoops. Another thing about South America is there is so much fruit, and it's grown local. So if you go to South America, definitely, you know, reach out, try to find a fruit that you haven't seen before or haven't heard of and try it, because it is absolutely fantastic. One of my personal favorites is a fruit called mora, which is kind of like a blackberry, and you can get it made into juice or you can just eat it and it's delicious. Another fruit that's really tasty is called granadilla. It's a type of passion fruit and it's really tasty. Definitely recommend trying that one as well. It is a little bit more different, maybe looks a little strange. It's kind of almost slimy on the inside, looks a little bit like frog eggs, but if you can get around it, very tasty. Definitely recommend trying it. Another thing that I'm going to recommend is eat local. It may be tempting to go and buy that bag of Doritos because it's familiar and you know you like it. However, depending on where you are, Doritos can be very expensive because they have to ship it, and then there's the different cost. So, for example, we went to Costa Rica and you could buy a bag of Doritos for about $10, which is ridiculous. Whereas the Costa Rican version of something kind of like Doritos was at least half the price. So, if you want to cut costs and also, you know, just to experience the country a little bit better, try buying local and eating what some of the local people are eating, because it just kind of gives you a better idea and a better feel for the country. One last thing that I'm going to mention is to don't be shocked when you see dogs running around the streets. It's very common for, if people have dogs, they'll just let them run around, or there's a population of stray dogs that tends to be pretty much anywhere in South America. We found it all the way from Costa Rica down to Brazil, and I mean, more often than not, the animals they're nice, they like humans, but they may have different diseases, fleas, that kind of stuff. So I'd be wary if I were to pet any of the dogs, and also different stray dogs, they can carry rabies, so that might also be one thing you might want to look into getting, is a rabies vaccination before going. Or if you just stay away and kind of keep an eye on what their personality or behavior looks like, then you shouldn't have any issue. But just one thing to keep an eye on, or one thing to keep in mind, is you will see a lot of stray dogs. So that's all the things that I could think of, just things that you might want to know ahead of time before going to South America, maybe to make your change into the South American culture a little bit easier. But I definitely recommend South America. I loved it. I've gone twice now, and I definitely want to go back. If you have any questions, you can post them in the comments below, and I hope you guys liked that video. Bye.